and you've got one heck of a story about conflict of interest in the California redistricting scam. Let us in on the secret. What's up?
Well, I mean, it's not surprising in any way because we know how Gavin Newsom and his Dem cabal operate. But they have got Paul Mitchell, who's well known in California as a data and drawing the districts kind of guy, making the maps behind the scenes. But he's actually he has clients in both the California Assembly, California Senate, and in Congress. So who is he going to be most worried about when drawing these maps? Is it something that will help the voters, something that will keep communities together, or is it something that's just designed to elect Democrats and protect incumbents? And pretty sure you already know the answer to that.
Now, what exactly is his position vis-a-vis this independent commission? I mean, how does this all work? And how does he get to influence
he's not supposed to have
it?
any position at all, because even to be part of this redistricting commission, to apply for it, you can't even have been a roommate of somebody who worked on some random campaign a few years before. Even you have to be so completely out of the process to even apply to be a commissioner. And those are the people who voters said overwhelmingly should be drawing these districts. So Mitchell, in addition to having his PDI, political data company, started this Redistricting Partners company, which is basically lobbyists for any kind of Dems who want to have districts drawn their way. And they do things like make up fake grassroots groups that send representatives to these hearings to testify and advocate for things. Like, people don't know that they're actually political advocates there. They pass themselves off as like, oh, I'm just for the Asian American community and that kind of thing. So he's well known already, even when we allegedly have an independent commission, which I would dispute. But so he was been taken in by Robert Rivas, the assembly leader, and Gavin Newsom to just draw these maps that are going to be foisted on us next week.
What are these maps going to look like, Jennifer Van Laar?
Well, we know that there's some personal retaliation going on. Governor Newsom has specifically mentioned Kevin Kiley as someone he would like to draw out of a favorable district, and a few others that they just want to retaliate against. They want to try to make it where I believe it's 9 seats that Republicans have now in California can be down at 4 or 5.
Do you think that's possible without one of those dummy manders where they accidentally create vulnerable districts where the districts weren't vulnerable before?
It's going to be tough because there's so much horse trading going on. You have the Voting Rights Act you have to deal with. You have all the communities of interest stuff that they give lip service to. But then you have a bunch of assembly members and state Senate members who will be terming out and wanting to run for Congress, in addition to the incumbents in Congress that all want to protect their seats. And so if they can, they're going to be having to make some Democrats unhappy, and it'll be showing how they're drawn will end up showing us who the Democrats who really matter in the state are.
Jennifer Van Laar, are we going to see some good old-fashioned Dem-on-Dem violence as candidates and potential incumbents, candidates and potential candidates start fighting with each other for that extra +4 Democrat vote? Because the Republicans have to be dumped somewhere. That's the idea. You try and sink their votes somewhere. And no Democrat wants it. They want a +12 district, not a +3.
Right, because even as we see someone like David Valadao in the Central Valley, his district is a Dem majority, but because of his standing in the community, he keeps getting reelected as a Republican. So they're going to have a hard time doing that, because we know increasingly Latinos and even the Black community are voting more for Trump and for conservatives. So they can't just draw it on racial or ethnic lines and assume that certain people are going to vote Democrat.
Well, look, just today, the Supreme Court set oral arguments for October 15th for a VRA, Voting Rights Act case that basically could say, hey, no more racially drawn gerrymandered districts. In other words, you no longer is there some requirement that they have to be drawn with regard to various minority groups, which tends to turn out to be Democrats. Though down in the Rio Grande Valley, we found out that that's not always the case. If the VRA goes away, is that going to have an effect on the California maps?
I think it definitely would. But even in California, on the assembly level, we had a Republican down at the border in Imperial County elected out of a huge Dem majority district. So, like you said, when you gets to the people that are dealing with the border issue or have dealt with it, they know that they don't want Democrats dealing with that. So again, there could be a little issue there. But the thing that not a lot of people are bringing up, and you might remember this because you're a lawyer in California, back in 1983, there was a California Supreme Court case based on an attempted mid-decade redistricting. And the California Supreme Court then said, no, you've already adopted maps that are legally compliant, and there's no reason to go back in the middle of the decade and redistrict. So nobody has dealt with that precedent and how that can affect things with this attempt that Gavin Newsom is doing.
Well, look, I practiced for 30 years before giving up my partnership, and I have no doubt that Gavin Newsom will be able to get whatever judicial rulings he needs to do whatever he wants out of the California court system. I've zero doubt.
I have no doubt about that, too. I would be surprised. I guess Willie Brown didn't have the same pull back in 1983 that Gavin Newsom has.
Well, it really wasn't the same Democrat Party, because what we now have here is a very hard left Democrat Party, which brings me to the next issue here in California. Is there any hope? I mean, we have Steve Hilton running. He's getting some attention. But do we have any hope to bring back, I'm not even going to say a majority of Republicans, though I grew up when California was majority Republican, but a significant, at least supermajority defeating number of Republicans in office. Do you think there's any chance of that?
I think there definitely is a chance to break the supermajority in the next cycle. I would never claim that we're going to get anywhere close to equal representation in the near term in California. But Steve Hilton's a great candidate. And the great thing that Republicans have going for us in California is you don't have anyone with the personality of Gavin Newsom on the Dem side. There's not any clear winner on that side. I mean, Katie Porter is not going to be inspiring people to go to the polls.
Well, Katie Porter is going to remind every Californian of his first wife. And, yes. I mean, she's just, Gavin Newsom has a kind of animal charm to him. And I've never met him, but supposedly he's personable in real life. And he's also unencumbered by anything like morality and consistency. But the rest of them, I mean, they're just hacks. We have about 15 seconds. Can you assess Steve Hilton's chances?
I think they're good. The biggest problem right now is some people on the right who think that because he's an immigrant that they shouldn't vote for him, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But yeah.
Did they like Schwarzenegger because he was an immigrant too? Well, wait, maybe not the best example.
Yeah,
maybe not the best example. Not the great example. Anyway.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.